Hey guys, it's Lazy, and in today's video, let's talk about my Ballista banner Tacticians. When 0.3 launched, I was thinking about playing Siege Ballista, and I was kind of set out on doing a Ballista Totem build. However, Siege Ballista is a little bit undertuned, so ultimately we ended up doing a Mortal Cannon build. And I can safely say, after doing multiple updates in the first week, this is the best version that I have put out so far. This version can be played as a one-button playstyle during mapping, and for bossings, you can simply just drop a banner and you should have enough damage to almost one-shot them. Now for pinnacle bossings, we have to do a simple gem swap, but nothing more than that, and I wouldn't really recommend this build for pinnacle bossings in general, but if you want to do pinnacle bossings, you would have damage to do so. Now this build is also extremely budget in a sense that I did kill Z3 without the constricting command. It is just a chase item that I kind of want to try. But other than that, simply just rare gears and a really good crossbow will do the trick. So yeah, this has been an amazing league starter for me personally so far. Alright, so this is gonna be the final version of this build, but also the final updates that I have. Essentially at this point, I have constricting command, which is a chase item. You don't actually need this item even though it's really strong, and I did kill Z3 on a full set of rare gears without constricting command, just FYI. And also I upgrade my crossbow, and the crossbow is actually quite good, but this crossbow you can actually get it pretty cheap this league because of deterministic crafting with essence. But anyway, yeah, 5-6 divine crossbow constricting command, so overall this build budget right now is roughly about 10 to 15 divines, and you can easily get all these pieces. Now for my particular setups, we are using only one main skill, and that is Mortal Cannons. Mortal Cannons is added this patch. Essentially, you put in a grenade skills and the Mortal Cannon is gonna shoot out that grenade skill. And you have multiple ways to scale this in the game. We have +1 to Ballista Totem here with a bunch of area of effect. Actually very important when you're trying to play with cluster grenades. Now for the totem limits, you get one from the weapons, one as base, and then +1 over here, and +1 on the tree over here. And the choice of grenade is actually very interesting because previously I was using explosive grenades with multi-shots. The thing here is that you look at the attack damage percent scaling 1274%, and you think, yes, explosive grenade should do a lot more single target damage, but not really because of the new tech for cluster grenade, which I learned from a YouTube channel called JMac. I will put a link in the descriptions. We are using reduced projectile speed in combinations with a bunch of AoE nodes to make cluster grenades and the mini grenades overlap on the same single target damage, which once again go back to the shotgun mechanics in PoE, which is one of the strongest scaling ever. If you can overlap multiple damage on the same single target damage, you are bound to do great damage. In order to do that, you will need cluster grenades with Nova projectiles, and you put the Mortal Cannon right under the boss, just like I did in the Z3 clips, and then you will shoot out 4 projectiles in 4 directions, and then the projectiles gonna explode, and the mini grenades also explode, and also shotgunning on the boss, essentially just tons of damage with cluster grenades. And besides, cluster grenade is extremely good for AoE map clear. So for mapping wise, we are using short fuse 1, just like this. So we have short fuse 1 over here with less detonation time, with no downside for less damage. But for pinnacle bossings, we would use short fuse 2, just so the grenade explode a bit faster, and also the mini grenades just travel slower, and essentially it can overlap. So that is the new tech. So yeah, you don't really need short fuse 2 for mapping. Mapping wise, short fuse 1 you can use it, so you can just play with totems with no downside on the more damage. And for the rest of the skills, we have Frostbomb for exposure, Mirage, Archer, Wind Dancer, Blasphemy. I'll go over this in the gem sections. Essentially, we have the 3 banners, which we take the Ascendancy notes right here, whoever paid best. So you have no limits on the number of banners you can place. Banners also gain 5 glory per second. And we are using all 3 banners right here. Now, you don't actually have to place banner during mappings. At this point in the game, I just put down totems and go, really, because the totem by itself do a lot of damage. But for generic bossings, you can put down war banners, and war banner is gonna give you a bunch of more attack damage, 25% more, 25% increased attack speed as well, and Defiance banner, which give more armor evasion rating, move speed, and also Dread banners, which give you more elemental ailment, maximum elemental resistance, and it can actually help you survive or your Totem survive. Our banners is also a little bit more effective than the normal banner because we have the increased aura magnitude on the scepters. I'll talk about that in the gearing section. But also, banner can be pretty strong when it comes to control an area. So for example, if you are doing rituals, expeditions, or even bridge, you can place down this banner ahead of time like this, and then you put down your totems and you click on the rituals, and you kind of just run around, put down your frost bomb and stuff like that, and do mana drain to recover your mana, and your totem could pretty much kill everything. And it's just extremely strong for those kind of contents. Just make it really brainless. You can turn off your brain and kind of do that. And for the defensive layer of this build, we are using Pin. Pin is just extremely strong. After I've tried it out so many times, I think pins in map are just incredible and also very good at controlling an area. So if you are doing rituals, expeditions, Abyss, even Abyss, right? You go in the middle, your totems, if you place your totem correctly, it's gonna pin everything around it and it's gonna kill it pretty easily. Beside the pin, we also have blasphemy support with temporal chain, and this slow everything around you by a significant amount, so you can actually dodge stuff and they don't kill your totem as fast, so it's actually very nice. And then we are using a bit of armor to apply to elemental damage and run a bit of evasions. We have a bunch of them here when surrounded, and we also have this Time Lost Sapphire to increase the effect of small passive, so you get a bit more armor evasions. Actually, I think my armor evasion is nothing too special, but yeah, 3600 here and 4500 here. I just don't have any chaos resistance, so sometimes I can still die, mainly because I want to run rarities on my gear, so I'm just stacking armor and evasions and a bunch of maximum life and just elemental resistance. So yeah, that's pretty much the current setup. Here's a quick mapping clips for this build. So we'll start with the rituals, which is what this build is kind of good at. Also, for Abyss content like this, you can simply drop your totems and move back. A lot of the ground effects in this game is quite deadly, which is why we have to play safe, but otherwise totems is pretty safe. Generally, if you don't step in some of the ground effects and get damage over time, this build is quite tanky because of the armor and evasions. You can see here, all I'm doing is pretty much running around and place down my totems, and occasionally I'll do mana drains, frost bombs, and I don't really have to place down my banners. But if you have nothing else to do, then you can place down your banners. I think if you're playing this build on a Tacticians, you might as well make good use of the banner nodes because it will help you do bossing and stuff like that. And once again, this build is very good for stationary contents, you know, like Essence, Rituals, and even Expedition, which I'll do here in a bit. If you are able to place your totem ahead of time, mostly like right in the middle of everything, because Nova projectiles go out in a circle. So if I put an expedition like this, I'll just place down my totem near the middle, and it should be able to kill most of the mobs surrounding us. Now, totem survivability is also an issue because mortal cannon is actually quite squishy, so sometimes your totem's gonna die. But because we have pins, so as long as 1 or 2 totems can actually shoot out and pin the monster, you can very easily just put down another totem because it really costs nothing for us. And once again, we have mana drain, so we don't have mana issues. And the only action we need to do is placing down totem. So it's become a very smooth playstyle. So here is another ritual, and I'm gonna do this very similar to the last one. We are going to place our banners, put down our totems, and then click the rituals. This way you can kind of see the banner cover the whole ritual areas, and the totems also have huge AoEs, which also cover the whole area, and it becomes very safe to do because all you need to do is dodging. So if you are looking for a build that can actually clear ritual quite decently, this one would do it on a budget. Ritual is definitely money this league because of the new change to omens, and some of the omens cost more than a divine. And yeah, it has always been good money, and you can kind of do it on a shoestring budget because you don't have to invest too much into your map. But yeah, you can kind of see the gameplay loops right here. We are also killing Riot very fast, and everything is just paint around you, so all you need to worry about is just to move and not stay in degens or ground effects. But yeah, we have another rituals coming up here. Now, this totem build usually kill ritual very fast because ritual monster also spawn in wave. And if the monster is spawning in wave, the totems actually shoot out the grenades in wave, and each time the wave of monster come out, the totem is just gonna kill everything. So the ritual usually goes for less than 10 seconds, and the banners also last more than 10 seconds. So which is why if you place down banner ahead of time, you can easily clear this ritual without much issues. And we have a boss coming up. I'm just gonna turn off the lightning shrines, and usually go for boss where you put down your banners and you put down your totems, and that is pretty much that. You don't have to do any gem swap. Technically, you can squeeze out a bit more damage if you gem swap to short fuse 2 on bosses, but it shouldn't really matter because once you have enough damage, the boss should die within 1 pin duration anyway, unless you place down your totem incorrectly. So let's talk about our skill gems. The first thing here is you might have noticed I swapped to Purity of Fire. This is because I am no longer using fulminations. I'm using a physical damage attack glove with a physical damage socketed rune, which is the new Great Wolf Rune of Claws. This is because I've swapped to cluster grenades, and cluster grenades scale a lot better with physical damage. You can clearly see in the gem support here. Primary grenades convert only 20% of physical to fire damage, and the mini grenades convert 40% of physical to fire damage. So the elemental part of this grenade is actually not that strong, and the main scaling vectors of this build is going to be physical damage. For Mortal Cannon, we are supporting that with Nova Projectiles, Short Fuse 1 for mapping, and Short Fuse 2 for pinnacle bossings. Payloads is actually very strong, so every time you put down a Mortal Cannon like this, it's gonna have 4 use of grenades, and if each of those 4 use can actually activate a second time, that's mean it's gonna be double the effective. The reduced cooldown recovery rate doesn't really matter because we're gonna put down new totems anyway. So whenever you see that your totems is finished and not casting any more grenade skills, then you just put down new totems. Now, because cluster grenade is scaling with physical damage, we are using half support for more maximal physical hit damage. You can kind of see here how much the damage difference is. So for example, in here you can see cluster grenades have 8700s, mini grenades have 4800s, and if I swap this to elemental armament, you can clearly see that the damage go down by a significant amount, and also mini grenade is a little bit worse because this one convert 40%. So yeah, half is the premium choice for the 6 link. The way I set it up on my weapon set 2, I have Mortal Cannon, and on the Mortal Cannon setups we're also running Mirage Archers, Wind Dancers, and the Companion. Because we are Tacticians and we can make use of the aura, which is why I run Mirage Archers with explosive grenades, multi-shots, elemental armaments, and payloads. It helps a little bit with the single target damage, but usually it's not really by a significant amount. So what you would do is that you put down your totem like this, and you do a quick dodge roll, and you swap to the weapons at 1 setup, and the totem's gonna do the works, and you also have chance to place banner, frost bomb, mana drain, and stuff like that. So on weapon set 1, we are also running Wind Dancers. Once again, it helps a little bit with the evasion, and we also running Vitality 1 on here just so that we can get rid of all the spirits. And finally, we have a Companion on weapon set 1 and 2. This Companion that I'm using have extra physical damage aura, and once again, because cluster grenades scale great with physical damage, it's just a very strong aura in general. But if you are running a pet with the haste aura, it's completely fine as well. On the weapon set 1, we have mana drains, and actually the reason why I have all these gem up here is actually because I'm running the Gem Enthusiast, but because at this point I don't have enough passive point to allocate this for both weapon sets, which is why I keep the weapon set 1 with Gem Enthusiast. So crossbow shots would technically don't need any gems in here because I'm not using it on weapon set 2. Now, for this Gem Enthusiast, you get 5% increase max life if you have 10 red support gems, and 5% increase move speed if you have 10 green support gems, which is why we have a bunch of support gems, and I match all the color to make sure that I have 10 of each. So you should do the same as well. Now, on the Purity of Fire gems, we have Vitality 2, Clarity 2, Warm Blood, and Herbalism 2. you can kind of see here that these use a lot of spirits, but for whatever reasons, whenever we use any of these support persistent buff gems in Purity of Fire, it doesn't consume the spirits, but also it gives the benefits of it. So for example, if I were to take out Vitality here, you can see that my life recovery go down, and I put this back in, my spirit do not go down, but I benefit from the total life recovery per second. And the same thing happened for Clarity here, 33, and it goes up to 50. So it doesn't consume any spirit, but it also provides you the benefits, so might as well run it while you can. The last 2 slot is actually flexible, but ideally you would want to run a red and a green gems in there. And also another note is that Purity of Fire gives you fire resistance, but it's only for weapon set 1, so you should not rely on this weapon to cap your fire resistance. And then we have Frostbomb for exposures, pretty much the same setup as before. We just want this to pulse many times. Each time it pulses, it's gonna provide elemental exposures and give us a bit more damage, because we do physical damage, but we also have fire damage. Next up, we have the Blasphemy support, and I'm running Elemental Weakness and Temporal Chain. Now, I think this setup is actually very strong because Temporal Chain slow down the enemy, so you have time to place down your totems, and your totems have time to attack first before the enemy can touch them, and they're gonna pin the enemy, so your totem's gonna survive and do 4 rounds of grenades. So Temporal Chain is like a must in my opinions. Now for Elemental Weakness, you do have options to go with Vulnerability Aura, and this one reduces the enemy's total armors. I'm not actually sure which one is better at this point, but because I'm using explosive grenades on my Mirage Archer, so I kind of just keep Elemental Weakness. But if you want, you know, even for pinnacle bossings, you probably can take off this and run both of these and scale your damage to even higher when you're fighting boss or pinnacle bossings, right? So either you run Elemental Weakness or Vulnerability Aura. And we also have Companion on weapon set 1 because I just have extra spirits and I'm not really sure what else can I do. But yeah, so we are back to running banners, and we are now running triple banners instead of Overwhelming Presence. So yeah, Dread Banner is, as a matter of fact, pretty strong. Supposedly, it only gives you +4 to maximum elemental resistance, but you can see we go up to 81% here. This is because of the aura magnitude from our scepters, and also on the passive skill trees. You can scale this number up pretty decently, and also we have War Banners and Defiance Banner also scale up with that, which in turn give us a bunch of defensive stats and also offensive stats as well. So yeah, in my opinion, Banner, you have to press that extra button, but it comes with a lot of extra power. So it is a pretty good option for you to run on Tactician, and this allowed the build to function quite well on a lower budget as well. Okay, so next up I want to talk about our items, and the first thing here is the crossbow. Like I said, I upgraded my crossbow and it's like night and day really, because crossbow is pretty much how you do damage in this build. Now to look for a crossbow like this, all you need to do is go into crossbow here. I'm not gonna get into crafting because there has been many guides for crafting out there and it's pretty deterministic, like I said. But if you want to look for a crossbow like this, all you need to do is type in crossbow, look for the siege crossbow base, something like this. It's actually pretty nice to have the in-game browser as well, because you can refer to this crossbow and stuff like that. But yeah, you want to have at least Ballista totems, so increase maximum number of summon Ballista totems, and you can look for your budgets. So depending on the budgets, you would put the divine here. For example, I want to look for at least 4 divines crossbow. You would search something like this, and then you would filter them by the physical damage. So just click on something like this. So for example, for this particular skills, you can see here the most important stats is the high physical damage, and also you get +6 to level of all attack skills. This is actually an insane crossbow for how cheap it is. It's actually better than my crossbow for only 3 divines. So yeah, it has been getting pretty cheap because people have figured out how to craft the exact crossbow. So yeah, I'm not gonna buy this, but yeah, it is. You can see it's better than my current crossbow, which is pretty good. Beside that, we are running Constricting Command. Like I said, it's a chase unique item. You don't really need it. Now, if you don't run Constricting Command, you're probably gonna have to drop all of these nodes right here. So no moss around the node, and you can have that extra options to put point into somewhere else, like going into even more armors, rating over here, get point into armor over here, and even points into the elemental convert to armor over here as well. But the trade-off is just less damage overall, but it's not really a problem. Like I said, I was trying to push this build so that I can one-shot pinnacle boss. It didn't really one-shot, but also we do a lot of damage at this point, so that was pretty good. Before that, I was just using a rare helmet, and it should work completely fine. On a side note, if you are buying Constricting Command, you need to always use one with require 5 fewer enemy to be surrounded, because that means you are always surrounded and you don't want to buy one with 4. It's either 5 or nothing. And then the other unique I have is Idol of Aldern with +1 to skill limits. I anointed this with Sharpened Glove for 25 increased attack speed. It's actually pretty cheap. And then we are running Dodred Damning, so we can apply an additional curse, which is how we are able to apply 2 curse when we are running the double curse setups on Blasphemy. Now for the rest of the items, we are running with Ray items. But the main thing here is that you need to understand is you want physical damage on the glove with physical damage rune, attributes like strength on the belt, intelligence on the ring. This build is actually quite attribute hungry, and you can get the intelligence on ring, strength on belt. On the scepters, you can get strength and intelligence. I kind of bricked it because I crafted this with the essence and it override my intelligence one. But you can also use rune with intelligence and try to fill up all your elemental resistance, so make sure that you're capped on resistance. Once again, you should not rely on the purity of fire over here to cap your resistance, but you should also be capped on the crossbow shot as well, because otherwise if you run into random fire damage on the crossbow when you put down your totem, you can get one shot if you're not capped. And then we are also running a From Nothing jewel, so this one allows us to allocate point in blood magics without being connected to the tree. Now, this is how you see that I'm able to allocate these 3 points over here. We have Prism Guard, which applied 30% of armor to elemental damage, was really good. This one gave 25% increased attack damage, which is also pretty good damage. And then we have Ancestral Alacrity, which is also an amazing node, because we don't run urgent totems on our model cannon setups. You want to have as much increased totem placement speed as possible, so this one helps a little bit. And overall, I find it actually pretty decent. Like, I don't need to run urgent totems, but technically for just generic mapping, you can still put in urgent totem over here and it would feel a lot smoother in map. And then we have the Time Lost Sapphire over here that I'm currently running. What you're looking for here is increased effect of small passive skills in radius, and also upgrade radius to medium so that you can cover this whole cluster over here, which is the surrounded cluster. And because we are using Constricting Command, all of these nodes gonna be beneficial. So for example, if I were to take this off, it goes to 25%, but each of these will go to 31%, and we also get that extra area of effect on all of these notable, especially Charm as well, because we are also scaled with armor and evasions, and we want all of these armors, notes, and the notable over here that have increased area of effect. So overall, a very strong option as well, and we only have 2 jewels on this whole passive skill trees. So yeah, that is pretty much the item setups. I'm running Life Freak over here, I kind of explained before, but Mana Drain is very strong. Once you run the setups, you have a mana drain for 400 mana, so just 2 casts gonna fill your whole mana pool. And then we are running Scepters again for these statistics. We have 1 Spirit, Strength, Intelligence. All of these ally in your presence does not affect the totem at all. I'm not sure how that works, but also, you know, the Ascendancies with Watch How I Do It also doesn't work. So yeah, totem is pretty weird. Now, on the topic of totems, let's talk about the Ascendancies. And yes, Watch How I Do It, allies in your presence gain damage. All of the allies in presence does not seem to work with totems, and it is pretty weird. I'm not sure if this is a bug or it is intended, but yeah, it's pretty weird that it's one of the Ascendancies for the Tacticians, and it doesn't work with totems. So don't take that. Now, when it comes to the first 2 Ascendancy points, I recommend you to go up and take right when we want them, because pin is actually very strong in the early part of this game. I've tested this multiple times now, and I have run with several different setups, but ultimately, just for softcore, pin is the superior options. It allows you to play a little bit more risky because you can pin enemy around you, and also it helps with your totem survivability. And because we are running double curse aura with blasphemy and temporal chain, the pins works together really well with totems, give it a head start, and then the totems can pin all the enemies. And then we have a solid plan. Now, persistent buff have 50% less reservation is how we are able to run blasphemy aura with double curse. So it is like really strong on the Tacticians, and you cannot replicate this on any other ascendancies. And then I opted to go for banners. Now, banner gain glories, and you have no limits on the banners you can place. This is just a notes that allow you to play with banners. So if you don't like banners, there's actually another options for you to go. You can go into polish that gear to get a little bit more deflection ratings, and then you can go into glancing blow, and then you can convert all your evasion rating to armors, and it helps a little bit, but I think it's more suitable for the hardcore playstyles. So this is the recommendations I have for the softcore playstyle. We just go with pins and we go with banners. Especially if you put out all your banners like this, you actually is a lot tankier than the other setups because you have that extra maximum resistance. Beside that, I think you can run this on several different ascendancies. I think Witch Hunter can be pretty good, and Warbringer is also another big contender as well, but I think Warbringer is just slower, it do less damage, and it cannot run banners and double curse, so I really don't want to get rid of all these utilities. Now, since we're already here, I'll just quickly touch on the passive skill trees. If you want to know more about weapon sets, I'm currently using 2 weapon sets. So on my weapon set 2, I have all the totems node, grenades nodes, and ballista nodes over here. Essentially, whenever I put down all my ballista totems like this, it's gonna snapshot this tree right here, and I can swap to my weapon set 1 where I run all the utilities node and banners node, while the totem is literally unaffected because it's snapshot. If you want to know more about weapon set and weapon swap, I highly recommend the video that I uploaded a few days ago talking about it in just about 5 minutes. Beside that, make sure you grab all these area of effect for overlapping once again, and you are taking short shot for reduced projectile speed, and it helps you do pinnacle bossings. But yeah, for general bossings, you might not even need this, and just by focusing on a bunch of AoE nodes would simply do the trick. Now, because we are running the constricting command, I have all these surrounded node allocated as well, and so you should do that. Now, if you don't have this helmet, it is completely fine to drop all these surrounded node, and you're gonna put more points into tankiness, so like increased armor over here, totem tankiness over here, you can get more armors over here, more strengths for life, and you can even path over here for heat proof to reduce even more fire damage. And there's also those little nodes over there, which is why it is extremely flexible. And once again, this build is very attribute hungry, so you can kind of see I have to change my attribute around a lot, so I just have like strength, int, dex everywhere on the tree to balance it out. What we are looking for is to have enough intelligence to run the curse setups on weapon set 1, and whenever we swap to weapon set 2, we have enough strength and dexterity to use our crossbow, which is what you should be looking for. And for the final thoughts I have on the build, I think this build is actually a great league starter. This is one of the setups that's gonna do a lot of damage as soon as you get yourself a crossbow upgrade, and you can just slowly upgrade all your pieces as you progress. Now, I've also revamped the written guide as well to make sure that I include a smoother path of leveling. A lot of people didn't like the Siege Ballista and Glacial Bolts, especially after the new update, so I've just swapped over to explosive grenades and explosive shots. And ultimately, after we finish with Act 3 or at level 41, you get access to mortar cannons, which is gonna be pretty smooth sailing from there. When you are running this build, make sure that you have your totem at higher levels so your totems does not die, especially the mortar cannons. Try to have it at level 19 or 20 when you can. Now that I have done with all the variant of this build, I have also added an early game variant and an end game variant, which is the setup that I'm currently running. So you guys can kind of pick and choose and slowly progress to this endgame setups where you will have enough damage to do pinnacle content and pretty much farm T15 maps delirious, no problem at all. The only downside with this build is probably the visual effects or visual clarity, because you literally don't have anything. All the explosions cover the whole screen, but it can also be a positive if you are into explosion and stuff like that. So yeah, this is pretty much all I have on the build right now. I'm still enjoying 0.3 a lot, so I'm probably gonna make an alt characters and play another build and setup. If you are interested in an alt leveling setups, I have also just put out my alt leveling setup for Hoverpalm for all class and Ascendancies, so be sure to check that out. And with that, thank you so much for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one.